بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope everyone is doing fine out there, considering all that's going on with the police brutality, with our African American brothers and sisters going through things. So at this moment, I'm going to share something with you in reference to this matter concerning menses for women. In the Quran, in ayat 2:22, Allah says in the Quran, it's
ويسألونك عن المحيض قل هو أذى فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن.
It's telling men, do not go into women at that time, because it is pain, is a hurt, and it is an annoyance for her, not for him. So I'm going to get into that, because we're always hearing that means that it is a hurt, that it is a pollution for men. And so according to the Quran, there are certain words Allah used in the Quran where they're consistently used. That's one of the mechanisms in confirming what Allah means about a certain verse or particular word. And so the word that Allah uses in the Quran in reference to hurt, pain, annoyance is afiyah. That's the root word in the Quran that Allah uses. And He uses that word in several other verses as well. Okay. In Surah 33, which is Surah Al-Azab, 33:53, Allah tells us in the Quran, after you are visited the Prophet's home and all of this type of stuff, like, don't stay around for small talk, because it annoys the Prophet. The word annoy in that particular ayat is athiyah, the root word again, the same root word that is used in 2:22 concerning women and menses. In 33:57, Allah is saying in that verse as well, do not annoy Allah and His Messenger. And the root word again is athiyah. That's the root word again. It means do not annoy, do not hurt, do not cause pain, do not cause trouble. Okay? In 33:58, Allah is telling the people, do not annoy the believing men and the believing women. Allah is saying, using the same word athiyah, the same root word. So it's consistent in the Quran. In 33:59, Allah is telling the women to draw their outer clothing over them so that they won't be annoyed. The same word, so they won't be bothered. Okay, people use the word molested. That is extreme terminology that they use in terms of interpretation. But that is not what the Quran is saying. So the word in 33:53, 33:58, 7, 58, 59, other verses, and particularly in 2:22, Allah is using the same exact root word in that verse as well. And so I brought these verses up to stress the point that Allah is saying in that verse, is telling men, do not go into women at that time, because it is an annoyance to women. It's not an annoyance to men. It's not a hurt to men. It's not a pain to men. It's not a pollution to men. Because in the whole history of mankind, this hurt, this pollution, if it was a hurt and a pollution for men, there is nothing in the history of mankind, any medical documentation, verification, or proof that men have caught some kind of disease or some kind of hurt or some kind of pollution from women after they've had sexual intercourse with her during her menses. There's nothing documented in the whole history of mankind. So this myth that it caused a pollution to men is straight out not from the Quran. It is actual rumor. There's no medical proof whatsoever. The only thing that happens, that men and women do contract from each other, venereal disease, sexually transmitted disease, is either through a virus, some kind of bacteria, or some kind of fungus. Okay, and it's not any proof where it initiated from, but it can be transmitted between both male and females. So that's a whole subject all in and of itself. But this story and rumor about it is a pollution and a hurt for men, it is a lie. There's nothing in history. There's nothing medically can prove that men who indulge in women during sexual intercourse causes him some kind of hurt or some kind of disease. There's no proof of it whatsoever. But on the flip side of it, when the Quran tells the men, don't go into women because it is an annoyance, he's telling you men, don't go into women. It is for her benefit, not for yours, because it does nothing to you men. It does nothing to men. In fact, it is a hurt for women because during that time, women are ovulating. The lining of their uterus is shedding. And it sheds because it was in preparation for human life. So at that time, when she's shedding, she's also going through some mild contractions. Some women, a lot of women, many women go through this. Alhamdulillah, I happen to be one of those who never went through that. So I know the flip side either way. I know what it's like. I know I have sisters or even Muslim sisters who talk about this situation. So in actuality, it is a hurt for women, and it's medically proven that this is an annoyance for women. During her menses, when men are engaging in women, it is an annoyance to her. He's telling you men don't go into her. He's not telling you don't go into her because it's a pollution for you. There's nothing in history that can prove that. So let's establish that point. So the other thing is this. If Allah is telling us in the Quran through these consistent words not to annoy the prophet, not to annoy the believers, that same word is used in 2:22. So there's nothing in history that can prove otherwise. So if we want to say that this is what it means, then where's the proof? The other thing is, this verse, again, is being used to say that Allah has said that women should not to pray to him during this time. There is nothing. This is the other thing. There is nothing in the history of Quran. There's nothing in the Arabic. There's nothing that says women should not pray to Allah because she has her menses. Okay, now menses grant you, yes, it smells. We know that. But it is also the essence of human life. Allah chose that environment to nurture human life. He chose that environment of the woman where there is blood, where this blood is, to bring about human life. This blood nurtures human babies when they're developing. It is what they need to develop. So to say that it is a pollution, you think Allah would put a pollution in a woman like that and then put his creation in there? Come on. We have to use our intellect. We have to think. Is this a pollution? No, it's not a pollution. It's not a pollution for men either. There's nothing. It does nothing to men. It does nothing to Allah. Allah says in another verse in Quran that the flesh of animals and the blood of animals does not reach him. It does nothing to him. He only wished for us piety. He only is concerned about piety. So there's nothing in that verse 222 that says that verifies that this verse is saying that it is a pollution for men, or that women should not pray. There's nothing in the whole of the Quran. In fact, this kind of thinking came from the Jews, right? They are the ones who changed their scriptures with their hands, and then wanted the prophet, may Allah be pleased with him, to change the scriptures as well. We all know this is very clear. There are verses in the Quran where they asked the prophet, could you change this and change that? And the prophet said, I can't change anything on my own accord. I can't change anything. There's nothing the prophet did outside of what Allah told him to do. So they said, Allah in his wisdom says ahead of time, when they ask you about menses, tell them this. And that's what the prophet did. So for over 200 years after the prophet's death, before hadith came along, this is what the Quran said. This is what stood. And now we get the hadith that contradicts the Quran. And we blame it on the prophet. The prophet said that. The prophet says nothing that's outside of what the Quran teaches. He taught, he elaborated, he furthered the understanding of what the verse is talking about. But there's nothing in that verse that says anything about it's a pollution for men, that is a harm for men, that women should not pray to Allah during menses. This is the most time anybody should pray. When you are hurting, you should be praying to Allah. So they say you can make dua. Who says that? So now you got a rule that you can make dua. but you can't make formal salat to Allah. Allah never said that. He never said it in the Quran. And what proof the Prophet said it is hearsay that the Prophet said that. Because the Prophet would not go against the Quran. Allah told him ahead of time. When and if they ask you about the courses of women, tell them this. It's very clear in the Quran. So the thing that I would like to say is that we have a lot of our imams, there are good intentions, but you imams, they never bring up this subject. They never clarify misinformation about women, about Muslim women, about women in general. You all have a tendency to only talk about subjects that are very easy, that doesn't cause you any conflict. But this subject here is a sin, is a crime against women, to encourage women that they should not pray to Allah during this time. Allah never said it in the Quran. And any of you imams, you know you're Arabic. You know the Quran Arabic doesn't say that. And so we let this perpetuate. We let women go through believing that they shouldn't pray to Allah. That's not in the Quran. And how could the Prophet say? And the other thing is this. When Allah says in the Quran, obey him and his messenger, he's telling us to obey them simultaneously. He's not telling you could obey something of the Prophet if you want outside of the Quran. Because that's not the checkpoint. The checkpoint is this, is to obey Allah and his messenger together is the checkpoint. It checks one over the other. And if you have one, particularly the Prophet, because he's only sharing what Allah told him to bring to the people as a warner. If we're saying something the Prophet said some years later after the Quran, that is contradictory, is going against the grain of the Quran, then we have to question it. With our intelligence, we have to question it. We're not questioning, like for me particularly, I'm not against my beloved Prophet. Let me get that straight. Just because I'm questioning certain things that are going against the Quran, I'm questioning it because it's saying things about the Prophet. It's saying things about him that I don't believe he said, because he wouldn't go against what Allah told him to say. So the point is, when it comes to menses, women's menses, Allah doesn't say that in 2:22, that women are a disease, a hurt, a pollution for men. No, he's saying to you men, it is a hurt. It is annoyance for women. Just like he says in those other verses, it is an annoyance for the Prophet. It is an annoyance for Allah and his messenger. It is annoying for the believers. It is an annoyance for women if you're not covered properly. So let's get this straight. Let's look into our Quran. Let's broaden our understanding. Let's not keep promoting stuff because we heard it. That goes for not just sisters, but my brothers as well. My focus is usually sharing this with my sisters because we have a tendency to follow all of this stuff without even verifying it. And then we walk around and we say that we are a pollution. That we are a pollution. Can you imagine that? No, it's not that. We're not a pollution. That's not a pollution. That's where human life takes place. Allah chose that environment to raise, to develop, to shape and mold human life. If it was a pollution for man, how is it not a pollution for the development of a fetus? No, it's not saying that. But anyway, I just wanted to share that, and may Allah bless us to grow in our deen. Study our Quran, learn Arabic for the purpose of understanding the Quran, not for just trying to speak the Arabic. All right. Assalamu alaikum.